Hello everyone, and welcome back to the David True Crime channel. I'm David, your guide through the darkest corners of human nature. And today we're stepping into a story so twisted, so haunting, it'll linger in your mind long after the screen fades to black. This isn't just a crime, it's a tragedy born from dreams, resentment, and a family fractured beyond repair. Picture this. A quiet morning in Delhi, India's sprawling capital, where the air hums with ambition and the streets never sleep. It's December 4th, 2024, and in the unassuming neighborhood of Neb Sarai, a house stands silent, too silent. Inside, 3 lives have been snuffed out in a bloodbath that defies comprehension. This is the Delhi triple murder, and trust me, you're not ready for what's coming. So grab a seat, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's dive into this chilling tale together. Delhi is a city of contrasts, a chaotic symphony of honking rickshaws, glittering malls, and ancient temples nestled among modern high-rises. They call it the city that never sleeps, and for good reason. Day or night, its 20 million souls are in motion. Street vendors frying samosas under flickering lamps. Students cramming for exams in dimly lit hostels. And laborers hauling bricks beneath the relentless sun. It's a place where dreams are forged in sweat and sacrifice, where every corner holds a story of triumph or despair. And in the heart of this restless metropolis lies Neb Sarai, a modest enclave of narrow lanes and tightly packed homes, where life unfolds at a quieter pace, or so it seemed. On the surface, Neb Sarai is unremarkable. Children chase kites across dusty rooftops, aunties gossip over steaming chai, and the occasional stray dog naps in the shade. But beneath this everyday rhythm, something sinister was brewing in one particular house, a 2-story brick structure with peeling paint and a rusted iron gate. This was the home of the Kumar family. Rajesh Kumar, a retired Army officer, his wife Komal, and their 2 children, Kavita and Arjun. To the neighbors, they were just another family, respectable, reserved, the kind of people you'd nod to on your way to the market. But inside those walls, tension simmered, unseen and unheard, until they boiled over into a nightmare no one could have predicted. Rajesh Kumar was the anchor of the household, a man whose very presence commanded respect. At 51, he carried the weight of his years with a soldier's poise, broad shoulders, a neatly trimmed mustache, and eyes that had seen more than most. Born into a modest family in Haryana, Rajesh had clawed his way up through the ranks of the Indian Army, a journey that began when he was barely 19. His career was illustrious, marked by stints in conflict zones and a coveted tenure with the Special Protection Group, SPG, India's elite force tasked with protecting the Prime Minister. The SPG was no ordinary unit. Its commandos endured grueling training, mastering everything from hand-to-hand combat to high-stakes surveillance. Rajesh had been one of the best, a fact he wore like a badge of honor even after retiring in December 2017. Retirement hadn't dulled his edge. Rajesh ran his home like a barracks, strict schedules, early bedtimes, and a no-nonsense attitude that brooked no defiance. His wife, Komal, was his softer counterpart. At 46, she was a woman of quiet strength, her days spent tending to the house and nurturing her children's futures. With her warm smile and deft hands in the kitchen, she balanced Rajesh's sternness, keeping the family tethered to a semblance of normalcy. Together, they'd built a life rooted in discipline and aspiration, raising 2 children who couldn't have been more different. Kavita, their 23-year-old daughter, was the apple of their eye. Slender and studious, She had her mother's gentle demeanor and her father's relentless drive. From the moment she could hold a pencil, Kavita excelled, topping her classes, winning essay contests, and earning a reputation as the girl destined for greatness. Now in her final year at a prestigious Delhi college, she was on track for a career in academia or civil service, the kind of path Rajesh had always envisioned for his offspring. Her room was a shrine to her achievements, shelves lined with textbooks, walls plastered with certificates, and a desk perpetually cluttered with notes. Then there was Arjun, the 20-year-old son who marched to a different drum. Where Kavita was cerebral, Arjun was physical, lean and wiry with calloused knuckles and a restless energy that seemed to hum beneath his skin. His passion wasn't found in lecture halls, but in the boxing ring, a world of sweat, grit, and glory that called to him from the time he was a boy. Arjun had discovered boxing in middle school, sneaking off to a local gym where an old coach saw potential in his quick feet and fierce determination. By high school, he was competing at the state level, bringing home silver medals that gleamed with promise. Those victories earned him a spot at Delhi University through the sports quota, a rare triumph for a boy who'd never cared much for grades. But to Rajesh, boxing was a hobby, not a future, and Arjun's obsession with it became a fault line that cracked their relationship wide open. The Kumar household wasn't a battleground, not yet, but it was a place where unspoken tensions hung heavy in the air. Rajesh had spent his life enforcing order, and he expected the same from his children. Kavita fit the mold effortlessly, her obedience a mirror to his ideals. Arjun, though, was a puzzle he couldn't solve. The boy had inherited his father's stubbornness, but none of his reverence for structure. Where Rajesh saw a soldier or a scholar, Arjun saw a champion, his dreams painted in the bruises of the ring rather than the ink of a diploma. It hadn't always been this way. As a child, Arjun had idolized his father, trailing him around the house in a toy soldier's hat, mimicking his crisp salutes. Rajesh would ruffle his hair and tell stories of his SPG days, tales of midnight drills, covert missions, and the weight of protecting a nation's leader. Back then, Arjun dreamed of the army too, of following in those polished boots. But puberty brought rebellion, and with it, boxing. The first time Rajesh caught him sneaking back from the gym, gloves stuffed in his backpack, the lecture lasted an hour. "This isn't a career," Rajesh had barked, his voice echoing off the walls. "You want to waste your life chasing punches? Focus on your books, or join the forces like I did." Kamal tried to mediate, her gentle pleas a buffer between father and son. "He's young, Rajesh," she'd say, her hands wringing a dishcloth. "Let him find his way." But Rajesh wouldn't bend. To him, Arjun's defiance was a personal affront, a rejection of everything he'd fought for. The scoldings grew sharper, the punishments harsher. Once, when Arjun flunked a math exam, Rajesh struck him, a single stinging slap that left a red mark on his cheek and a deeper one on his pride. Kavita, watching from the doorway, said nothing, her silence a tacit approval that stung Arjun more than the blow. Kavita wasn't cruel. She loved her brother in her quiet way, but she was the yardstick against which Arjun was measured and found wanting. Her successes were celebrated with proud smiles and extra servings of halwa. His medals were met with curt nods and reminders to study harder. Over time, Arjun began to see the pattern. Kavita could do no wrong, while he could do no right. The disparity gnawed at him, a slow poison that seeped into his bones. He didn't hate his sister, not yet, But he envied her, and that envy festered in the shadows of his heart. By December 2024, the rift had deepened. Arjun was in his second year at Delhi University, juggling classes he barely attended with grueling training sessions. His coach, a grizzled ex-fighter named Vikram, saw a spark in him, a raw talent that could take him national, maybe even international. "You've got the fire, kid," Vikram would grunt, wiping sweat from his brow as Arjun sparred. "Keep at it, and you'll be a name someday." Those words were fuel to Arjun, a lifeline in a home where his dreams were dismissed. But every triumph at the gym was overshadowed by the tension waiting at home, where Rajesh's disapproval loomed like a storm cloud. December 2nd, 2024 was a day that should have been joyous. It was Kavita's 23rd birthday, and the Kumars pulled out all the stops. Komal spent the morning in the kitchen, the air thick with the scent of frying puris and simmering dal. Rajesh, usually stoic, softened for the occasion, inviting relatives and neighbors to a small celebration. A three-tiered cake sat proudly on the dining table, its chocolate frosting gleaming under the fluorescent lights. A local musician strummed a sitar in the corner, filling the house with festive notes as guests trickled in, their arms laden with gifts for the birthday girl. Kavita was radiant, her laughter ringing out as she accepted hugs and well wishes. "Happy birthday, Beta," Rajesh said, his rare smile warming the room as he handed her a silver bracelet. Komal beamed, snapping photos with a battered old camera. The relatives, uncles with booming laughs, aunties in bright saris, showered Kavita with praise. "Such a smart girl," one said, patting her head. "She'll make us all proud." Arjun watched from the sidelines, his arms crossed, his face a mask of indifference. He'd brought a gift too, a small sketchbook he'd picked up from a street vendor, but it paled beside the lavish offerings piling up around his sister. Rajesh had given Arjun a task: set up the chairs and keep the snacks flowing. Simple enough, but Arjun, distracted by his own brooding, botched it. Half the chairs were crooked, and the samosas sat cold on the counter. Rajesh noticed, his jaw tightening as he pulled Arjun aside. "Can't you do one thing right?" he hissed, his voice low but cutting. "It's your sister's day. Stop sulking and help." Arjun mumbled an apology, but the reprimand stung, a familiar barb in a tender wound. Then came the moment that broke him. As guests chatted, Rajesh, exasperated by Arjun's half-hearted effort, slapped him hard across the face. The crack of skin on skin silenced the room for a heartbeat before the chatter resumed, awkward and forced. Arjun's cheek burned, but the humiliation was worse. Relatives averted their eyes. Kavita looked away, her gift-wrapped bounty suddenly a glaring symbol of their divide. He didn't shout or fight back. He just turned and walked out, the sitar's melody fading as he climbed the stairs to his room. There, in the dim glow of a single bulb, he sank to the floor, his back against the wall. Tears came, hot and silent, as the party's muffled joy seeped through the floorboards. He wasn't a child anymore. 20 years old, a man in body if not in his father's eyes. But that slap stripped him bare, exposing a rage he'd buried for years. That night, as the house settled into silence, Arjun lay awake. The clock ticked past midnight, each second a hammer against his resolve. The slap replayed in his mind, a loop of shame and fury. And then, like a whisper from the abyss, a thought took root. "I'll kill him." It was monstrous, unthinkable. A son plotting against the father who'd taught him to tie his shoes, who'd carried him on his shoulders through crowded fairs. But once it lodged in his brain, it wouldn't leave. He stared at the ceiling, his breath shallow as the idea grew claws. Killing Rajesh wasn't enough, though. Another realization followed, cold and logical. If he murdered his father, Kamal would despise him. The family would shun him. The police would come. No, it had to be both of them, Rajesh and Kamal. Gone in one fell swoop. 2 murders, not one. His mind raced, plotting, calculating. When? How? The answer came swiftly. December 4th, their wedding anniversary. It was poetic, perverse. A final twist of the knife on the day they'd vowed to love each other forever. Arjun didn't sleep that night. He lay still, his heart pounding as the plan solidified into something real, something inevitable. December 3rd dawned bright and ordinary. Arjun rose at 5 a.m., his routine a shield against suspicion. He moved through the house like a ghost. Water from the kitchen, toothbrush in the bathroom, gym bag slung over his shoulder. Breakfast was quiet. Kamal served parathas. Rajesh read the paper. Kavita scrolled her phone. No one noticed the storm brewing behind Arjun's blank stare. He ate, nodded at their small talk, and left for the gym, his fists itching for release. The gym was his refuge, a concrete box where the world made sense. Vikram was there, barking orders as Arjun pummeled the heavy bag. "Faster, Arjun! Hit it like you mean it!" Sweat dripped, muscles screamed, and for a few hours he could forget the madness taking root. Back home, the day unfolded normally. Kamal dusted the living room, humming an old Bollywood tune. Rajesh tinkered with a broken radio, muttering about shoddy wiring. Kavita studied, her nose buried in a textbook. Arjun kept to himself, his mind a battlefield of doubt and determination. He'd chosen his weapon, Rajesh's army knife, a relic from his SPG days. Razor sharp and lethal, it rested in a locked drawer in his parents' room. That afternoon, while Kamal napped and Rajesh stepped out to buy milk, Arjun slipped upstairs. The drawer creaked as he pried it open, his fingers trembling as they closed around the hilt. The blade glinted in the sunlight, a promise of violence. He hid it under his mattress, its weight a secret he carried through the evening. Dinner was at 9 p.m. Dal, rice, a side of pickled mango. The family ate in near silence, the clink of spoons the only sound. By 10 o'clock, they dispersed to their rooms, the house settling into its nightly hush. Rajesh and Kamal slept upstairs, their door ajar. Kavita was downstairs, her light flicking off. Arjun waited, eyes open, as the clock crept toward midnight. The plan was set: kill Kavita first, then his parents. Greed had joined his rage. Without them, he'd inherit everything. No splitting the estate, no witnesses. Just him, alone, free. At 3:50 a.m., the house was a tomb. Arjun rose, the floor cold against his bare feet. He retrieved the knife, its edge catching the moonlight as he crept to Kavita's room. She slept soundly, her breast soft, her face peaceful. He hesitated, 1 second, 2, then struck. The blade sliced her throat, a swift, silent arc. Blood bloomed across the sheets, dark and warm. She didn't stir, didn't scream. He stood there watching until her chest stilled. One down. Upstairs, he paused at his parents' door. Rajesh lay sprawled on the bed, snoring faintly. The bathroom light glowed. Kamal was inside. Perfect. Arjun tiptoed to his father, the knife raised. One slash, deep and brutal, severed Rajesh's throat. Blood sprayed, soaking the pillow, but the old soldier didn't wake. 2 down. Arjun waited by the bathroom, his pulse a drumbeat. Kamal emerged, yawning, and he struck. Another clean cut. She crumpled, a gasp her only sound. 3 down. He checked their pulses, his hands slick with blood. Dead, all of them. Back in his room, he stripped off his stained clothes, stuffing them into his gym bag. At 5:30 a.m., he left, jogging to a nearby riverbank where he tossed the evidence into the bushes. The gym was next. 40 minutes of punching, a mask of normalcy. At 6:45, he returned. Stepping into the house, he turned into a slaughterhouse. His scream was rehearsed, his tears convincing. Neighbors rushed over, the police followed, and the charade began. The sun was just cresting the horizon when the first police jeep screeched to a halt outside the Kumar residence. Its red dust-coated tires kicked up a cloud that mingled with the morning mist, casting an eerie haze over Neb Sarai. Officers spilled out, their khaki uniforms crisp against the chaos unfolding on the street. Neighbors clustered in tight knots, their whispers a low hum, shock, fear, and disbelief threading through every word. Arjun sat on the porch steps, his head buried in his hands, gym bag at his feet, his sobs a jagged rhythm that drew every eye. To them, he was a boy shattered by loss. To the police, he was a question mark. Inspector Vikrant Sharma led the charge, a wiry man in his late 40s with a hawkish gaze and a reputation for cracking cases others couldn't touch. He'd seen his share of bloodshed, gang wars in Old Delhi, dowry killings in the suburbs, but this felt different. 3 murders in a locked house, no signs of a break-in, and a survivor who'd walked away unscathed. His gut churned with suspicion as he ducked under the yellow tape, now strung across the gate. "Secure the perimeter," he barked to his constables. "No one in or out until we've swept every inch." Inside, the air was thick with a coppery tang of blood. The living room was untouched. A faded sofa, a wooden coffee table, a TV flickering static from a late-night power surge. But upstairs, the scene was a slaughterhouse. Rajesh Kumar lay sprawled across the matrimonial bed, his throat a gaping wound, the sheets beneath him a crimson swamp. His face, frozen in sleep, bore no trace of struggle, just the blank stare of a man who'd never seen death coming. Komal was crumpled near the bathroom door, her nightgown clinging wetly to her skin, blood pooling around her like a dark halo. Downstairs, Kavita's room was a quieter grave. She lay tucked under her blanket, her head tilted slightly as if dreaming, except for the brutal slash across her neck, the only mark on an otherwise serene tableau. Sharma crouched beside Rajesh's body, his gloved fingers tracing the air above the wound. "Clean cut," he muttered to Constable Priya, a sharp-eyed rookie scribbling notes. "No hesitation, no defensive marks. Whoever did this knew what they were doing, and they did it fast." Priya nodded, her pen trembling slightly. "All 3, sir? In their sleep?" Sharma's jaw tightened. "Looks that way. But 3 kills, no noise, no witnesses. That's not luck. That's precision.